so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs, and we are here to do our Indiana football mailbag. We have about a week between basketball games, so we'll get into some football stuff, some housekeeping. Before we get started with questions, one, thank you for sending in questions. We got about a dozen via all of our avenues, whether it's X, on our forums, Facebook, Blue Sky, and all that stuff. So thank you for sending those in. We'll get to almost all of them that we can get to. And then Indiana's spring practice is set to start the Thursday after spring break in March, and then the spring game will be the Thursday before Little Five, which is April 23rd. And that is the same night as the NFL draft. So somebody asked a spring game question. We'll answer that in there as well. So without further ado, let's get down to some of the questions. The first question I want to answer came from X, from Brandon Eckstein. Looking ahead to the end of next season, do you see any breakout underclassmen who will take advantage of the draft eligibility? So to forego their senior season, i.e., Charlie Becker, Elijah Hardy, or Kobe Martin. I don't think it'll be Kobe Martin. I just don't think he's had enough playing time. Plus, running backs are a dime a dozen. It seems in the NFL. Charlie Becker could, especially if he has a full year of staying healthy, and then two, making the plays that he made last year. Elijah Hardy is another one that could, but with NIL and revenue sharing coming, if you're a kind of a late round pick, you might as well go back to school, make that money, and see if you could improve your stock. Other guys who are, underclassmen who are draft eligible, you could see, maybe Turbo Richard, again, another running back. Nick Marsh is another guy coming in from Michigan State, who's a very good receiver. And that's about it from there. As far as juniors, redshirt juniors, you don't really see, and then you have your 4-year senior guys who are not underclassmen. So if I had to put my money on it, it would be Nick Marsh. But I don't know if you call that a breakout year. But I do think that Nick Marsh is probably under that category, as he could leave early. Another question from Jason at Hoosier Faithful. I'm curious if IU football is going to the White House. I don't know. There hasn't been a formal invitation announced, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it. If they go, great. If they don't go, whatever. But, it just seems – I don't know if SIG is going to – it seems like last year, and it's not something SIG would do. But it is tough to turn down an invitation from the White House. But we'll see. There hasn't been any formal invitation as of yet. So next question from Kelly at Kelduck on X. What percentage do you think Jaylen Brewster ends up a Hoosier? Jaylen Brewster is a 5-star defensive line recruit. He's committed to Texas Tech. He's made a couple visits to IU. IU is still recruiting him. They sent down Pat Kuntz a couple weeks ago to make an in-home visit. Texas Tech's defensive line coach had left. He said something to Rivals when they asked, "Does that, is he locked into Texas Tech?" He said, like very bluntly, no. Um, his asking price is very high. I don't have an exact number, but it is super high. Obviously, for a 5-star recruit along the defensive line, those guys are going to command a pretty penny. I would probably put, if I had to put a percentage on it, about 30%. IU's still in it. I don't know if it's in the budget, but they're still recruiting him, and we'll see how it plays out. It would be a heck of a get for Indiana, and to stick with him while he was still committed to Texas Tech as a Texas kid is, you're doing your due diligence as a staff. From Pitt Hoosier, and this is on the spring game. Michigan and Ohio State both had the ring ceremonies at the spring game after their national championship. Are we expecting something similar? Personally, I don't expect anything similar. Just look, there's no banner for the 2020. There's no whatever recognition outside of a little plaque for the 2024 college football playoff team that went 11-1 in the regular season. I'm just hoping that they put a national championship recognition inside the stadium so everybody can see. I don't know if they'll do a ring ceremony, especially since the spring game is the same night as the first round of the NFL draft. And what I think IU should do, I don't know if they're going to do it, but what they should do, I believe the draft starts at 8. I would see if I could start the spring game around 6 or 6:30. They play a half, and then at the conclusion of it, put on the big scoreboard Fernando Mendoza being taken number 1 overall by the Raiders. I get there's a little bit of risk in that. God forbid he does not go number 1. It's a little bit of egg in your face, but there's like a 95% chance he's going number 1. I think it would be a cool moment to share with the fans, a cool moment to share with this team, saying, "Hey, if you guys put in the work, this could be you one day." But I don't see a ring ceremony coming at the spring game. All right, from Stripetology on X again. I fully understand and approve of football price increases, but why does the B-ball program continue to give greatly discounted tickets to nearly half of Assembly Hall, only to see empty balconies and upper mains, even with a wait list? Revenue is revenue. Yeah, I don't really want to get into too much basketball stuff on a football mailbag, but I get it because you tied both of them together. Football prices were going to increase. I personally don't like increasing them 2 years in a row. And you're kind of starting to price out the fans who have been there forever. There were always 20 to 30,000 people who were always at IU games, and they are starting to be less of a priority than your big money donors. And I get it. And I understand why, because in this day and age, in this day of NIL and this era of college football, you need to have those people. And winning does come at a cost. And this is the cost. I don't know the exact increase on top of my head, but it was a significant increase. Plus, they hit you with a $14 mandatory donation on parking and only allow you to buy 1 parking pass per group, which is, I think, kind of short-sighted. My thing with the football price, what do you get for it? Like, winning a national championship is great, and people paid out the wazoo to go to all these postseason games, and it will be worth the price of admission to go in. But are they going to renovate restrooms? Are they going to give fans amenities that command those prices? Like parking, charging an extra $14 for parking and having the same guys run the parking lot. They don't run the parking lot. There's so much wasted space in lots 10 and 11 because the company that they hire just does not either know what they're doing or does not care about what they're doing. So, it's you got to give something back to the fans besides on-field results a little bit, for just for the enjoyment of the game. Otherwise, it's your success is not going to last forever. At least to a 16-0 national championship. I know I joked about that being the ceiling. You cannot get much better than IU was this year. Sure, on the analytics, they could go from 2-1 on some things, or beat their opponents by 70 points all the time. But to go 16-0 and win a national championship in this era of college football, that's the top of the mountain. So what happens when you go 10-2, or if you go 11-1, or 9-3, and stuff like that? Striking while the iron is hot is smart, but you also have to put back into the stadium. And they sent out a one of those surveys again that had all the bells and whistles of luxury seats and things like that, and the prices for it kind of put a pit in your stomach of, oh no, are we gonna see $1,000 increase in tickets and all that stuff? But basketball wise, I just don't think Assembly Hall is a good arena structurally or seating wise. It's for big. Here's why there's empty seats, in my opinion. One, I think there was a lot more damage done by Mike Woodson in that era of IU basketball, going back to Archie Miller. That apathy there was more apathy than people expected. And the coaching search didn't go, maybe it went as planned as Scott Dolson wanted, but it didn't go as planned as the fans wanted. They wanted a big name hire, and Darren DeVries, while he's done a good job, and he has IU at 17-8 and 8-6 in the Big Ten and knocking on the door of the NCAA tournament, he wasn't at the top of their list. So the excitement going in wasn't high. Then you have, you have seats sitting in the upper main section in the cave, and you're watching half the game on TV. Why are you paying a ticket price? Yes, it's kind of discounted, but why are you paying the ticket price when you could do this at home without having to deal with parking and traffic and paying for food at the stadium and bathroom lines and all the nonsense that comes with going to a sporting event these days? You don't have to deal with. Same with the upper balcony seats. The first 4 rows in the middle sections of the balcony are really nice seats. They're you can see everything. You have a good view. Getting up there stinks, but there are just not many great seats in Assembly Hall. So you put all those factors together. That's why, in my opinion, you have those things. People say, yeah, take it away from the students and sell them to the public. I mean, the season ticket, they were still taking season ticket applications and selling season tickets well into September. I don't know what the wait list was there when I gave up my season tickets, just because I have a 1.5-year-old and it's impossible to get down to games. Plus, now I'm covering basketball, so we could get in the door. But there's just not enough demand for it. And I do think that apathy was worse than people thought. And, people are not going to go sit in bad seats and spend that kind of money, even though it's slightly discounted, to watch a team that they don't really know about right now. So we'll see. Yes, revenue is revenue. But again, Memorial Stadium holds, I think it was 3.5 times as much as Assembly Hall. So the focus will be on football and selling football tickets and maximizing revenue from that way. So let's get to our forums. Awesome questions from our forums here. If you haven't joined, please join. There's a free option which gives you access to the forums, but you do miss out on some of our more in-depth articles out of some of our, we'll have more features coming up for premium members. And it's $3 a month, $30 a year, which is well below what everybody else is charging for that stuff. So first questions will come from K-Cot off of our board. First question is, what newcomers, freshmen, and transfers are you expecting to have the biggest impact this year? Who would be your Charlie Becker surprise contributor of the year? And I'll preface this with this. Charlie Becker wasn't our surprise. He was our breakout player of the year. And it wasn't a surprise that he did what he did. But I get why he kind of came out of nowhere and surprised people. With that being said, the surprise contributor of the year for next year probably comes on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to have a lot of turnover at linebacker, even though Isaiah Jones and Ro Hardy come back. You have some edge players coming in as well. There's some special teams guys who played really well who can make a difference on the defensive line too. Quentin Clark comes to mind. He was an absolutely heat-seeking missile. That's kind of the route that Charlie Becker took, right? Played all 13 games as a freshman on special teams. Came in this year, had an awesome second half of the year. Played on special teams all year, made 7 special teams tackles, and even continued to play special teams as a starter. Davion Chandler is another guy like that. Now, Indiana has some receivers coming in, but guys go down. Again, that's the Charlie Becker route. But they trusted him enough and believe in his ability enough to kind of burn his red shirt playing on special teams. So those are the 2 early ones, Davion Chandler and Quentin Clark, that could. But I will know more when we see spring practice. Second question, do you foresee any changes to the offense with new personnel? Are Hoover's skills and style similar to Fernando's? First of all, Indiana's bringing back. They kept their coordinators on both sides of the ball. On offense, you lose Chandler Whitmer, but you bring back old friend Tino Sinceri. What this staff does really well is cater the offense to the quarterback, and they've done it forever. And this is what Curt Cignetti does really well. You go back to his time at Elon, JMU, every quarterback they've had has been really successful, and that's because they cater the offense to what the quarterback does really well. Josh Hoover, I haven't watched a ton of tape on Josh Hoover yet, as we'll get into that soon. He is 3 inches shorter than Fernando Mendoza. He's a little bit thicker. Fernando was a goofy runner, but he was a good runner. He had great vision as a runner as well. The arm talent, Fernando has better arm talent, but you could see where Josh Hoover is going to be successful in the passing game too. He has to cut down his turnovers, and maybe that comes with being protected better at IU with the offensive line, and those things. But he has the talent to get there. But there are things that he needs to clean up. Decision making, when to run the ball. But you trust the staff to make those adjustments and put him in the best position possible. Again, I want to see Josh Hoover in person during spring practice. Number 3 from KCOT, biggest positions of concern for next year. Right off the bat, going into spring practice, it is definitely the tight end position, where you don't have a ton of healthy depth in spring. You have 2 healthy tight ends. But let's say all those guys are healthy, you have an extremely young and inexperienced room. This coaching staff has earned the trust of everybody to say, hey, if these are the guys we're going to roll with. These are the guys they're going to roll with and have total faith in. But again, it is kind of a risk going into spring, and they could add a veteran tight end in the portal still. The portal's closed, but guys could get out of the portal and transfer to schools still. However, that probably does not happen until the summer. There's no spring portal window either. So, I think IU has maybe two or three spots left. And maybe a tight end, if you could get a veteran tight end, it would make me feel a lot more comfortable about that position. And then I don't really have a concern on the defensive line. They could use another defensive lineman in the middle, but they have a lot of young guys who are inexperienced. But we saw with Daniel Ndukwe and all those guys they plugged in for Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly played well. I mean, they even threw Jamari Monet out there in the both the final and the semifinal. So they have a knack for getting guys ready. So, but tight end is probably my biggest concern next year. Now that Tyler Cherry's back at quarterback, I did not see IU going into the season with 3 scholarship quarterbacks. From Hurrying Hoosier, this one kind of tongue-in-cheek. Can we beat Purdue this year by more than 66 points? I don't know. We didn't beat them by 66 points last year. I do think Purdue will be improved, although that's kind of a layup because they can't get much worse than they have been the last 2 years. But Barry Odom brought in a good transfer class. We'll see. Again, it's at the end of the year. Guys get banged up and stuff like that. It is a home game for IU. We'll see. I don't think Sig. It also depends where IU is. Sig ran up that score in 2024 because he needed that margin of victory to get into the playoff. Were there opportunities to run up the score against Purdue last year when they won 56-3? Yeah, but he knew he was safely in the playoff. He knew that he was, a win basically guaranteed them a spot into the Big Ten title game. And you needed to get guys healthy because you did play 6 or 7 straight games. He had a week off. You played on a Friday night, so he had an extra day for the Big Ten title game. And he did what he needed to do. We've seen that. Again, like Illinois, 63-10. That was a statement game for Indiana. And they'll make whatever statement they need to be successful. So if that means you need to beat Purdue 70-0 to get the result that you want, I wouldn't doubt that Sig would try to do that. But will I say that they'll score 66 points against Purdue? I don't know. From IU Gradman off our boards too. Also a really good poster. Probably needs to settle down and relax a little bit and take a deep breath and just enjoy the sports. How good can this 26 team be? Are a conference championship and a playoff berth realistic achievements? I mean, yes, they're achievements that were accomplished last year. I do think that you bring back some talent to where the drop off. You're losing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who's probably going number 1 overall in the NFL, in the NFL draft. And he had a special year, like unbelievable special year. Can the offense be as good? Can they win these games? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Can they win a conference championship? Again, it's one of these things where tiebreakers come into play. IU does play Ohio State, at Michigan, and USC, 3 teams that kind of are in the mix. You have to add Oregon in there too. But let's say IU drops one of those games, Oregon goes undefeated, or drops one and beats Ohio State, or it is a really realistic expectation, or or a really realistic goal. But my expectations always going into the season are win your home games, win your non-conference games, win your rivalry game. Michigan State drops off, so you only have the bucket game. And then if you can, at minimum, split your road games, which this year are Rutgers, Nebraska, Michigan, and Washington, you're sitting at 10-2, and that should get you at least into the playoff. So my expectations are always IU should make the postseason, whether that's a playoff or a bowl game. It would be disappointing to go to fall back to 8-4 or 9-3 and miss out on a playoff. It would be disappointing, but you got to put yourself in the best position. If you go 10-2 and get left out, that means you probably lost a game that you had a chance to, if you win, make the playoff. And that's just when you have a selection committee happens. But with the 12-team playoff, IU with this team, yeah, that should be one of the the boxes to check. Can they have a successful season without making the playoff? Sure. I mean, the team won a national title. They for me, they could go 6-6, and yeah, we're still in good shape. But this team, I think, is just as talented, maybe even a little less talented as last year, but it depends on different spots. So, all right, from Kelly _32. If Hoover plays at a level between Rourke and Mendoza, this team will challenge for another national championship. I guess that was a comment on the expectations. Yeah, it's the best quarterback usually wins games, and if he's playing in between the Heisman Trophy winner and a guy who finished 9th in the Heisman Trophy voting, IU will be in the mix for another national title, or at least a playoff run. We've seen how hard it is to play 16 games. Guys get banged up. To do it 2 years in a row, everybody thought Ohio State had a chance to do it, and they lost their first playoff game as well. So it's if you get to the playoff, then it's anybody's game. From Ron McAhern off our board, could somebody explain this rule basis for the no call on Curry's hit on Mendoza in the Big Ten Championship, and then the helmet on chin hit to Mendoza on the early in the national championship, and then the late hit on Carson Beck by Landino late in the game. We'll start with the Big Ten Championship game because I think it was pretty cut and dry. It wasn't targeting. It was a clean hit. Was it late? Probably. Could they have thrown a flag? Yes. Am I super upset that they didn't? In hindsight, not really. Now, if Fernando Mendoza was knocked out of the game, yeah, that probably is, should have thrown a flag. But, you don't win that game without Fernando anyway. So that flag might have been meaningless. Going to the missed targeting call and then the call on Landino in the national championship game, I don't understand why the Jacoby Thomas hit was not ruled targeting. They clearly saw it on replay, even if you missed it, because you kind of missed it, and we missed it in the radio booth because we were so far away, and you didn't really notice it until you saw Fernando spitting blood out on the replay, and you go, how did that happen? It had all three indicators of targeting. Fernando was a defensive player. Yes, he was carrying out a run fake, and you could get hit on it, but he didn't have the ball. He's a defenseless player. There was helmet to the head contact with the crown of the helmet, and there was a launch. So I don't know what these referees were looking at. That was clear. Like, if you go to and I went to the Big Ten referee officials clinic a couple years ago, and that's like teach tape. That's when you go to targeting, that's the textbook targeting. And if you're not going to call that, you can't call the Landino late hit. Was it late technically? Yes, but you're allowing Miami's guys to just wallop Fernando Mendoza with no call, and then you call that in the final 2 minutes of the game? Come on. The officials need to be better across the sport. Um, I don't have a solution other than making them full-time employees, having a national instead of having different conference pods of referees, have a national referee officiating governing body, hold them accountable. Make them available after games for media to question them. Replay didn't even look at the one on Mendoza, which is like, what is the instant replay official doing? So what the ACC did this year, and I think it was on uh, kind of driven by uh, the Miami Virginia game from 2024, they let you in the room where they're making the decision. And for all the ACC games I watched and there were replays, it made it so much better. And there's some accountability there too. What are you looking at? Why are you making this call? If it was so egregious, but they kind of chastised them a little bit. But get instead of having these guys travel, play different sports, have them do practices in their home area, go out to games on weekends, meet on whatever Sunday or Monday, go over the calls that they missed or the calls that they made or questions that they have, and do it full time. I don't need my local injury attorney refereeing a national championship game because he needs money to live his life without being an NCAA official. So there needs to be some sort of governing body there. And I believe that is the final question from our group there. So it's thank you for sending them in. I had a good time researching these things, talking football. We'll do another mailbag as spring ball gets closer. We'll do a basketball mailbag as the postseason gets closer and the season wraps up. And then we also have our coverage of spring sports. So keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. Follow us on X at Hoosier_Huddle. We are also on Facebook. It is the official Hoosier Huddle, Facebook.com/official Hoosier Huddle page on there. We're on Blue Sky as well. Just type in Hoosier Huddle. So keep coming back. Thanks for an awesome football year. It was great sharing it with you guys. And I know I know the year has been a total whirlwind following us and our site. So we appreciate you sticking with us.